Item B, which is an application filed by T-Loft LLC for pilot assistance in the amount of $675,000 for the T-Loft's student housing project at 1515 11th Avenue North. Jim Gilmore, Director of Planning.
We've had this on your agenda before, so I won't go through all the details on it. This is the public hearing on the pilot part of the application. We're required to have a public hearing to see if there's any competitors that might want to choose to attend and object to this level of assistance. It's $675,000, and unlike a lot of the other pilots, there isn't a developer's agreement attached. And I did pass out the kind of a preliminary payment schedule. In addition to this particular payment in lieu of taxes, actually in years 1 through 5, there will be a payment equal to what they're paying in taxes now, so it won't go down. They'll still pay on what those buildings were worth that were removed. I don't know if you have any questions. Larry Nygaard is here representing the developer. Try to answer any questions. I won't go into all the details since I've done that before.
Mr. Chairman?
Mike?
Jim, when this came for us earlier than that, I had asked you if you're going to put in some language that had some kind of agreement to the amount of the rents, because we'd asked what is market rent, and so this agreement goes for 10 years. I don't see anything in this document that says that the rent isn't going to double or triple.
Yeah, I guess when we looked at that policy, I guess I didn't get a clear direction that everyone wanted some real firm rent controls on it. It was more the policy outlined and said we'd take a look at what these particular rents would be. I guess in the business plan, they'll be in the range of $525 for a 1-bedroom and $850 for a 2-bedroom. Larry, is that about right? But maybe you want to come up and address that. And I don't know if they can get that much higher because of other competing projects in the area that have rent, so they can't get too far out ahead of the market. So we expect them to be in that range. But no, we did not put that language in there. I did not think that was the intent.
And did we find out what the market rents are? Because I've just polled a few students, and this seems higher than what they pay.
Mr. Chairman, can I add one thing? The one thing, Mike, is I think this will put pressure on there are some not high-quality landlords in that area.
Right.
And I think this will have the opposite effect of maybe improving some of the quality of some of the rental property from that perspective. And I do think they're in competition with the dorms, as far as price. So I think they'll be under some market pressure to keep fairly reasonable prices. So do you know what I'm saying?
I do, and I think I agree with what you're saying. We want to upgrade the quality of these rental opportunities. And I also think when we're using a pilot, that affordable housing has to be part of that criteria. And that's why I am asking these questions. Thanks.
I'm Larry Nygaard from Roers Development. And maybe I could address this too, where this project is maybe a little different than what you're used to. If you were to call up a normal apartment building and ask the rents, the difference between the two would be, this would be more like a dorm in that it's all-inclusive. The rents that you saw quoted here would include the heating, the utilities, cable TV, high-speed internet access, those types of things all bundled together. Mm-hmm. The business model for this plan is more on a per-student basis than it is on an apartment basis. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to charge rent like a normal building, but a 2-bedroom, for example, would be priced as if it had 2 occupants in it. Mm-hmm. And so the rent would be, for example, $450 per student rather than $900 for the apartment. A 4-bedroom would be priced at $425 per student rather than $100 for the apartment. So it's a little different model than you might see in the day-to-day. It's much more like a dorm than it is an apartment building. So when you looked at the rents and thought they might be high, they're not as off skew as they might appear to be if you were just going to make a phone call to find out what some of the competing
And then as far as the 10-year, you know, you starting out at this level, in part of these agreements, usually there's some hooks, and one of those hooks in the future, maybe, some kind of guarantee that, you know, the rents aren't gonna go up beyond, like inflation.
Sure.
But have you given that any consideration, what you
Well,
expect?
you know, my
You gotta
first,
service your debt, and that's what you got numbered here, right?
yeah, and you know, how these things normally work is from an investment return, they're rather skinny on the front years, and they do get better returns as they go out. I mean, that's the hope of any developer, is that you don't have to depend on those first few years when your costs are very high compared to the rent you get. I don't know how a rent control will work, and I wouldn't really want to be bound by that, just because there are a lot of uncertainties that you have to swallow on the front end, and an agreement to control on the back end might limit you the opportunity to ever recoup some of those.
Mr. Chairman, can I make one comment? The other thing I would say is there was 3 really blighted buildings that were removed, even though one could have been a historic site, because apparently you lived there during your college career. But the other thing I will say is that it's within walking distance, and so that's a key thing, that we're trying to get the kids to use more of the public transportation, and also to be walking distance of the campus is a good thing. And as far as, maybe you could talk just a little bit, Larry, about the parking. You're going to be cooperating with the university as far as the parking, and just to give us a little bit of how that works.
Sure. Be happy to. This project wouldn't be possible without a cooperative effort with NDSU for the cooperative use of some of the T-Lot parking that's available. And studies that they've done indicate that in the approximate location of this apartment building, there's some underutilized stalls in the T-Lot, and we're going to be able to take advantage of those and significantly decrease the amount of land that we have to pave and make available for parking. So it's really a great situation for both of us.
And that's another issue that I had with this particular one, is since there is ample parking, it seemed that there might have been some more trees incorporated into the parking lot design for the aesthetics and blending that building in. So, like I said, I like that there's housing within walking range. I think that when we're doing these kinds of incentives, that we can you know, ask for maybe a little more from the developer as far as some guarantees for making sure that it hits the criteria for the pilot program, and then also for, like you said, the livability and trees and parking lots. Just because it's a parking lot doesn't mean it has to have no
Right.
trees, so that's something we can work on in the future. Thanks.
Okay, all right.
Pat?
We've had some experience in the past dealing with rent control issues that also plays into apartment inspections, that also plays into then some sort of a housing certification program. So, I mean, in some ways, all of that comes together. And in previous commissions, the discussion always focused back as to, well, what would the market bear? And so that's sort of where we've gone. However, I think that there may be some things, Commissioner, that we can look at. The whole fair market value issue of, or the fair market rents may be something that we ought to look at in terms of maybe building it into some of the pilot agreements that we've got. But again, from what they explained to us, it seems like the market really will sort of keep a level playing field on some of these with the proximity to the college. But again, that's not to say that the commission shouldn't direct the staff to start looking at rent controls and/or some of these other tools that are used by some of the other college communities. But again, there's always trade-offs when you have that sort of approach where you have a little more government intrusion into the private market.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, thanks, Pat. I just want to thank all of you. What this is about really is like when I started in 2004, we had TIFs that were going 25 years. We don't anymore. So, you know, we can always tweak these policies, and so this is what I'm suggesting, you know, looking at some of these as we go forward.
This is what you're going to vote for?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address the City Commission regarding this application? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make the motion for the approval of the $675,000 of pilot assistance for the T-Lofts student housing project as outlined in the development agreement.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Jim, initially when this came forward, there were some concerns about how it worked out. This is what you finally have resolved is a good resolution of that, the 100%, the 50%.
Yeah, I think it brings it back onto the tax rolls within 10 years. It doesn't lower the taxes like some of the other tax increment financing districts have done. And we had our financial advisors review this, and, you know, the rate of return is probably a little below average even with the assistance.
They're not making a killing on it, and it's reasonable.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what
plus
they're-
they came in originally with the process of taking down 2 or 3 other units that weren't that old, right?
Yeah, the original project was going to be larger, and that required an even greater level of pilot assistance, and so this was scaled back some. They didn't get everything they asked for in terms of the original request, so it was cut back because of the policy that you've adopted that kind of limits the amount we would provide towards land write-down and limits how much is provided on other costs, so that
So what's going to happen to those other apartments as time goes forward?
I believe right now they're going to be still managed by Roers, and in the long run, they might, I think, have the capability to add on to this building. Whether or not we'd provide any assistance for it, you'd have to address that sometime in the future.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, again, just want to thank the group for coming forward, and, you know, we're going to have more opportunities to look at the ways that we can help development in our core neighborhoods. I don't think this one's there yet, but it's getting better all the time.
Well, this one, as far as I'm concerned, removes some dilapidated property, and it's well within the aspects, so.
Well, maybe Commissioner Williams, you can help them develop the other part of that without a pilot.
Mr. Chairman, if I get 12% on my return, I'll do it.
Okay, please call the roll.
Wimmer,
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Williams,
No.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Wallaker,
Aye.